ॐ ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीमुपास्महे। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अखण्डं सच्चिदानन्दम् अवाङ्मनसगोचरम् आत्मानमखिलाधारम् आश्रयेभीष्टसिद्धये अर्थतोऽप्यद्वयानन्दान् अतीतद्वैतभानतः गुरूनाराध्य वेदान्त सारं वक्ष्ये यथामति. So the whole idea of Vedantasara being superimposition, adhyaropa, and desuperimposition, apavada. So the first task of Vedantasara, what Sadananda tries to kind of teach is the adhyaropa, how we end up mistaking the true identity of the absolute consciousness and give it a form, give it a shape, give it a color, whatnot. Basically, we allow it to manifest, and so that is how it is kind of easily understood. So we looked at what is a vastu. Vastu basically is the absolute reality, which is the Brahman, which is Sat Chitanandam, and everything else is avastu, which is Ajnana, which is the Prakriti from which all the manifestation takes place until every single manifest object. And then we have some descriptions of what Ajnanam is. And without going into too much details, basically it is neither Sat, the absolute consciousness, nor the absolute non-existence. Example could be, I think a beautiful example Swami Sarvapriyananda gives is, for instance, somebody telling a truth and somebody telling a lie and something which is non-existent altogether. So if it is non-existent altogether, the question of truth or lie does not even arise because it was never there to even begin with. So that is called asat. Whereas a truth which is always there is the sat. Now that can be mistaken. And when it is mistaken, there arises a myth. And that myth is this ajnanam or the ignorance. So this ignorance is therefore neither the absolute truth, but it takes from it. It takes from it and mistakes it, or we mistake it due to this kind of ajnanam. But it's surely not the asat or the absolute non-existence whatsoever. Again, the book gives examples, or I don't think the book gives, but there are examples such as a square circle or a rabbit with horns. A rabbit does not have horns, so therefore it is a non-existence. It is not the truth, neither is it a lie. So that is how examples are given. Then we have the understanding of individual and collective aspects, which is page 40, where the absolute consciousness, which is the Chaitanyam or the Parabrahman, when obviously it has come in contact with the Jada Padartha or the inert substance, the inert substance gives the absolute consciousness some shape. And again, another example may be worth using here is a glass of plain water. Glass of plain water is colorless, but you just need to put some colored object behind that glass of water. Now, glass being transparent, it immediately assumes the color of the object behind it, and now the water looks colored. But it has no color. but it now looks colored. So that is, you can say adhyaropa. Something has been superimposed. So that's a nice word therefore. Aropa is putting something on another thing, putting something being put on an object. That is adhyaropa. So similarly, this water which was never the substratum for absorbing any color, it is made to look as if it has a color. All you need to do is remove that object behind it, and the color of the water once again becomes colorless. So we have quickly seen adhyaropa as well as apavada. Superimposition and removal is desuperimposition. It stays the same. It is unchanged. Now, whether it is a single droplet of water or whether it is a complete water body, the sky which reflects in it. Now, sky is the entire space is enormous, limitless. But now suddenly you look into the drop of water, it feels as if the sky has become limited to that water droplet. Because that water droplet can't be seen as blue. We'll take a bigger, let's say a small lake. A small lake with the sky reflecting in it, it looks blue. But you see the bigger collection of water, which is an ocean, it also has blue color to it. Now, or another way to put it is, for instance, rivers or rivulets. Rivers are blue in color because the sky is reflecting in it. They're all merging into a rather big ocean that is also blue in color. Whether it is the single small water body with its sky reflecting in it, the small unit of sky, or whether it is a large water body which has a larger sky reflecting in it, they both are the same. However, they both are being given different names and they have different purposes. Another example is the trees and the forest. Forest is a better example in that sense, mainly because lots of trees put together becomes a forest. And these individual trees, if you just sit on the top of the tree and you look up, then there is a little bit of sky as much as our visual field can capture. So that let us say that we say that that is the part of the sky which is in relation to this tree. But then for the entire forest, if you are to imagine the visual field when you look up into the sky, it has a larger field of the sky which is limited to the entire forest. But the fact of the matter is the sky is not limited either to the tree or to the forest. Relatively, it is a larger part of the sky for the covering the forest, but at the end of the day, sky is limitless. So this is to be understood here when we talk about samashti as well as vyashti on page 40. So idam ajnanam samashti vyashti abhiprayena ekam anekam iti cha vyavahriyate. So depending on whether this ignorance is coming into contact with the absolute consciousness as an individual unit, then it is called Vyashti. If it is coming into contact with the sky as an aggregate of the individual units, it is called Samashti. So Samashti is the one which is given the name Ishvara, or the consciousness which is associated with that aggregate ignorance. The aggregate ignorance, the consciousness which is associated with the aggregate ignorance is given the name Ishvara, the consciousness. Similarly, the individual unit consciousness, the consciousness associated with the individual unit is called Prajna. So that is those are the names given. But why? Because Ishvara has association with Shuddha Sattva Guna. So pure, untampered kind of basically, yeah, no, it's not maligned in any way. That kind of pure sattva guna, which therefore is full of knowledge and therefore full of radiance, and it brings in Ishvara certain qualities which include sarvajñatvam, knower of everything, sarva niyantratvam, controller of everything, and sarveshwaratvam, being the lord of everything. Now, these are the features obviously automatically that come to the Ishvara by the very nature that it is coming in contact with Shuddha Sattvam. However, for the individual units of Prajna, this does not happen because it is much more Malina Sattva, very inferior quality of Sattva Guna. And this kind of level of inferior quality of Sattva Guna makes it so dull, it does not radiate at all. Rather, it is quite gross in that sense, and therefore it has no powers of knowing everything and so on, and therefore it is limited, very limited in that sense. Both of them, however, are called Karana Sharira, or also called as Sushupti, or also called as um, uh, Anandamaya Kosha. So they're called Anandamaya. Last week you asked this question. So the reason it is called Anandamaya Kosha, it is explained in Vedantasara book itself, that perhaps it is because of the very nature that this is Ishvara, not just Ishvara, the Brahman which has the bliss or the Ananda, Satta Chit Ananda, the very aspect of bliss is reflected in this Ishvara or the Prajna. Therefore, it is called Anandamaya Kosha. And it is called Karana Sharira because for Ishvara, that becomes the reason why the creation comes into existence. Whereas for Prajna, it becomes the reason why an individual body, a human or a prani, comes into existence. It is called Sushupti because Sushupti is a dreamless sleep state and everything dissolves in a dreamless sleep. Let's, for instance, when we are sleeping, when we are actually kind of sleep awake, we are experiencing everything in this material world. When we are asleep, but we are dreaming, we're still dreaming based on what we are experiencing in our awake state. And but when it comes to dreamless sleep state, nothing seems to exist, or in other words, everything seems to dissolve into it. So if it is for Ishvara, the Sushupti state is nothing but everything from the Srishti just comes back and dissolves at the time of Laya or involution of the entire creation. Whereas for an individual unit like a body, every night we go into sleep. When we reach the dreamless sleep state, nothing seems to exist. Everything seems to collapse in that particular state. Nothing exists. So that is the only place where it seems to be dissolving. Only for us to wake up again and it all emerges again. Okay, so having understood those two, we then move on to there is a concept called as Turiya. Turiya is to be understood as it's called the fourth. The reason why it's called fourth is there is this there is the individual unit Prajna, there is the individual unit Ishvara, irrespective of or the aggregate unit related to Ishvara. The absolute consciousness that seems to be limited by them, we have given a name Sushupti. But the entire absolute consciousness is unlimited. So because we seem to have confined some amount of absolute consciousness to these and call it Sushupti, the remaining part which is unlimited is being given a name Turiya. but it doesn't need to be actually given a name as such because it is there anyway. It is there as absolute consciousness, which doesn't need a particular name. So there isn't any other particular attribute that we need to give to Turiya. Then we have ignorance and its capacity. It has two Shaktis, two powers. One is called Avarana Shakti, page 53 and 54, and another is called Vikshepana Shakti. Avarana Shakti is power of concealment. So this ignorance very nicely seems to be concealing what is absolute knowledge. Absolute knowledge is being concealed so that we are unable to see it. Example is a cloud, and how a cloud is able to obstruct a large field of sun very far away. A simple, very meager and a weak cloud which can be pushed aside by strong wind is still able to cover very powerful knowledge. So that is the Avarana Shakti. Vikshepana Shakti is projection. Not only is it covering it, it now makes the, let us say, for instance, it now makes it look something very different altogether. And that is the Vikshepana Shakti, the power of projection. And then beyond that, we then go to subtle, yeah. So we have completed Karana Sharira, and now we will look at Sukshma Sharira. Sukshma Shariram is what we were looking at last time. It has three sheets. Of course, the three bodies are Karana Sharira, the causal body, Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, and the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, and the Sthula Sharira, which is the gross body. And we have five sheets. The very first sheet from top to bottom would be the Anandamaya Kosha, which was related to the Karana Sharira. Now, there are three sheets which are part of the subtle body of the Sukshma Sharira, and these include Vijnanamaya Kosha, or the sheath of intelligence, Manomaya Kosha, the sheath, a mental sheath, and Pranamaya Kosha, also called as vital sheath. And we will look at this as a summary, which we have already covered the last time round. So, before we have the understanding of Sukshma Sharira, what Vedantasara gives us is an understanding of how Prakriti actually, or the, in this case, the Brahman leads to the creation of Jnanendriya, the five organs of perception, sense organs, five karmendriyas, the actions of organs of action, then the antakarana, buddhi, manas, ahankara, and chitta, and vayu panchakam, the five pranas. So these have been formed, and it starts by saying on page 63, Jnanendriyani, okay, the five shrotra, tvak, chakshu, and all that. These are actually formed from sattva guna. Sattva guna, where in the sattva guna? From the five subtle elements. What are the five subtle elements? The five subtle elements are Akasha, Vayu, Prithvi, Jala, Agni.
Agree.
So these being there, they have predominantly tamoguna in all of them, but in the decreasing order, they have some amount of sattoguna, of course, rajoguna as well, but predominantly all five of them have tamoguna. But Akasha has more of sattva-guna, and it keeps reducing until Prithvi, or the earth, element has the least of the sattva guna among the five. Now, irrespective of it, what is happening is the sattva guna from each of these five is resulting in the five respective jnanendriyas. So, Shrotra, the ears, are coming from the sattva guna of the Akasha because it is space and sound. Then Vayu is wind, it is all about feeling it, therefore it is Tvak or the skin. And then Chakshu is all about color and form. Agni is therefore the reason for it. Then Apaha is the water, it is about taste, and therefore it is the Jigra, tongue. And then you have the Prithvi, which is the element for smell, and therefore Grana, the nose. So that is how they have emerged. Then we have Buddhi. Buddhi is the Antakarana, as the four inner organs are being spoken about. Among them, Buddhi is the first one, which has the ability to determine this is to be done, this is not to be done. It's a final conclusion.
Decision maker.
Then you have the manas, the mind. Mind is something which is analyzing, and as long as it is analyzing, buddhi is not coming into play. Once it has completed its analysis, buddhi comes into play. Then you have chitta, which is memory, and ahankara, which is the abhimana vritti, which is identifying, oh, I am the one doing it, that belongs to me, and so on. All these four are various aspects of the same unit of ahankara, of antakarana. All these are also coming from sattvaguna of these five elements, but from a combination of the five elements. Unlike the jnanendriyas, which were coming out from individual elements separately, here it is a combination of the five elements leading to these four antakaranas. And then you have, so the combination of buddhi and the jnanendriyas, the intellect plus the five sense organs, is called Vijnanamaya Kosha, or the sheath of intelligence. Okay. Right. So then after that, we have seen Manomaya Kosha. Manomaya Kosha is nothing but the mental sheath, which is formed from the manas, the mind, and the five sense organs. So that is Manomaya Kosha. Next, we are being introduced to Karmendriya, organs of action. Now, the very nature of organs of senses is all about knowledge seeking. So, knowledge is coming from Sattva Guna. We understood that. Now, action is all about Rajoguna. Rajoguna is all about action. So, Karmendriyas, the action, sense organs of action, are all originating from Rajoguna of these five elements. Just like how the sense organs have originated from the Sattva Guna separately from one to one from the five elements, Karmendriya is also coming one to one from the Rajoguna of these five elements. Once that has come into play, then we are being introduced to five pranas or vayu. Five pancha vayavaha is what is being said. They are prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. Did we do this last time?
No.
I think this is where we possibly stop.
Yeah.
So, vayavaha, prana, apana, vyana, udana, samanaha. This is page number 67 and text number 77. There are five pranas as is being mentioned. Prana, apana, Vyana, Udana, Samana. What do they do? It is all given later on. Next. Prano Nama Prag Praggamanavan Nasagrasthanavarti. So among these five, the first prana, first vayu that is being considered is prana. It is named prana, and it has this tendency to go upwards. As we can understand, it is actually present nasagravarti. It is at the tip of the nose. So we are inhaling. The prana is being inhaled, you can say. It is the vital force which goes upwards and has its seat at the tip of the nose. Now, the tip of the nose doesn't need to be confused. We may say this is the tip or this is the tip. For this purpose, this is the tip.
Yeah.
So that is prana. Okay. Now we go to apana. Apano nama avag gamanavan payuvyadhisthanavarti. Now, payuhu is one among the five organs of action. So what do we have there? Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upasta. Vak is organ of speech. Pani is organ of basically its hand. Pada is feet. Payu is excretion. Okay. Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upasta. Upasta is genital. So Payu is action organ related to excretion. So understandably, the force is going downwards. So apano nama avak gamanavan payuvyadhi sthanavarti. So it is present in the organs of excretion and it is going downwards. Third is vyano nama vishwak gamanavan akhila shariravarti. Very name Vishwa Gamanavan. Vishwa Gamana means universal in a sense. It's going everywhere. And it is Akhila Shariravarti. It is there in all parts of the body. So Vyana is moving in all directions of the body. It is there everywhere in the body. Next is Udano Nama Kantasthaniya Urdhva Gamanavan Uktam Uktamana Vayu Udvagamanavan Utkramana. The printing is for Kra is very different here. Udvagamanavan Utkramana Vayuhu. So Utkramana, which is it is basically we'll have to just read the English part here, which helps the passing out from the body. Oh, okay. Yes, I remember now. So Udana Nama, it is seated in the Kantha, the throat. At the time the subtle body or the death occurs to the gross body, the subtle body has to find its way out. And this subtle body, of course, with the causal body, understandably, the subtle body is being pushed out at the time of death by this particular prana called Udana. Most of the times it is said, as is explained here, that though at the time of death the subtle body may pass out through any part of the body, yet the throat is most often the exit. There are so many exits, it can actually take any exit to leave the body. But most often it is happening through the throat. So therefore this Udana Vayu gets the subtle body eject out of the gross body. That is its function. Then samano nama sharira madhyagata ashita ashita pi ashita pita pita
Tanadasi.
समानो नाम शरीर मध्य गताशीत पीतात पीतात गता आशीत पीतात ना पीतान्नादि ओके ओके सॉरी माय मिस्टेक अशीत पीता अन्नादि पीतान्नादि समीकरण करः so basically samana vayu is actually it is stationed in Sharira Madhya Bhaga. It is in the middle of the body. Ashita is food. Pita is drinking. So, Annadi Samikarana. So, the digestion in relation to that or assimilation of it. That is what it is. Its job is. So, Samana Vayu's job is Samikaranam or the assimilation or the digestion of food and drinks. So we have those five Vayus again. They are, what are they again? Prana, which goes up at the nose. Apana, which goes down at the excretory organ. Vyana, which is there everywhere in the body, circulates everywhere. Udana, stationed at the throat and helps the subtle body eject out at the time of death. Samana, which helps with the assimilation of food and fluids. Samikaranam tu परिपाककरणं रस रुधिर शुक्र पुरीषादि करणम इति यावत् so samikaranam what is assimilation samikaranam to paripakakaranam paka means cooking basically so paripakakaranam basically is digestion and digest once digested it is transforming into rasa various enzymes Rudhira, blood. Shukra, semen. Purisha, ultimately the excretory part, the feces. So once the digestion has happened and the assimilation of the vital parts has happened, it is changing into various things in the body and the remaining unnecessary part is being excreted. So those are the various functions of the five pranas. However, next says, Kechittu Nagakurma Krukala Devadatta Dhananjayakyaha Pancha Anye Vayavaha Santi iti Vadanti. Some say that there are five more pranas and they are being given names as Naga Kurma Krikala Devadatta, Dhananjaya. These are the five names, and they're giving details of five of them. Tatra Naga Udgirana Karaha. So it seems Naga is the one which makes us vomit. Kurma is Unmilana Karaha. Unmilanam is basically our Nimiranam and Unmiranam. Nimiranam would be closing eyes. Unmiranam is opening eyes. So Kurma is doing the function of Unmilanam, opening the eyelids. Then Krikala is Kshutkaraha. It is creating appetite in us. Hunger. Kshut means hunger. Devadatto Jrumbana Karaha. Devadatta is the one leading to yawning. And Dhananjayaha is Poshanakaraha, the one helps with nourishment. Etesham pranadishu antarbhavat pranadayaha pancha eva iti kechit. Etesham of these five pranadishu. Among the prana, we have already been introduced to five earlier vayus, which are prana, apana, and so on. So pranadishu means among those five. Antarbhavat, being part of these five pranadayah, pancha eva iti kechit. Because they are all part of those five anyway, they don't need to be mentioned separately. Hence, the pranas are only five altogether, is what some are
Vedanta.
saying. Kechit, some are saying. एतत् प्राणादिपञ्चकम् आकाशादिगत रजोंशेभ्योः रजोंशेभ्यो अमिलतेभ्यः उत्पद्यते. So etat pranadi panchakam. So these five prana and all this panchakam, where are they coming from? We earlier heard about the karmendriyas coming from the rajoguna of the five elements, one to one. Here, pranas are all coming from the rajoguna of these five elements, but from a combination. Now, if we can relate, the sense organs, jnanendriyas were coming from sattva separately. Karmendriyas are coming from rajoguna separately. Antakaranas were coming from combination of sattva guna. Pranas are coming from combination of rajoguna. Now, with this, what is happening is we are seeing pranamaya kosha. Pranamaya kosha is made up of the karmendriyas, organs of action, and the pranas. Therefore, it is being given the name pranamaya kosha. What is being said here is idam pranadipanchakam karmendriyaihi sahitam san pranamaya kosha bhavati. So these five pranas along with karmendriyas is now being called pranamaya kosha. Asya kriyatmakatvena rajomsha karyatvam, because it has the innate feature of action. It is coming from rajoguna. Then eteshu kosheshu madhye vijnanamayo jnanashaktiman kartrurupaha. Among these, now because we have already seen, so far we have already seen four koshas.
Yeah.
Anandamaya kosha, which we are not going to talk about now. Then Vijnanamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha. And these Vijnanamaya, Manomaya, Pranamaya kosha together is being described or discussed again here. Eteshu, among these three kosheshu, Madhye, in them, Vijnanamayaha, Jnana Shaktiman Kartrurupaha. So this Vijnanamaya kosha is knowledge filled. It has the power of knowledge, Jnana Shakti. It has the power of knowledge, and therefore it is the subject. It assumes the subject or the doer. It becomes the doer. Now, interestingly, the earlier when we were talking about the Karana Sharira, it did not have anything about doing ability. It was only in a very subtle, innate state. It's not really kind of manifest beyond its association with the ajnana. Now we are actually seeing the manifestation, because suddenly we start seeing the indriyas, suddenly we start seeing the manas, buddhi, ahankara. Therefore, being the knowledge part, it is being said that it is the doer, kartrutva. It has the kartru rupa. Manomaya, Manomayaha ichcha shaktiman karana rupaha. Karana is instrument through which things are done. So Manomaya Kosha, the mental sheath, which has obviously the manas and the um, jnanendriyas. Although they are still coming from sattva guna, yet it is not being considered as jnana shakti but ichha shakti, desire. The one which has the desire or the willpower, it is said here. It is the willpower. And this willpower is is translating into being an instrument. We will see the relevance of it a little while later. Then Pranamaya Kosha is Kriya Shaktiman Karya Rupaha. Prana Shakti being action oriented, it becomes the object or the goal, and Karya is the final result. So Kriya Shaktiman Karya Rupa, it becomes the result. So is the product as is being called here. So Jnana Shakti, Ichcha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, this is also something which we hear separately. So Vijnanamaya Kosha is referring to that Jnana Shakti or the Kartrutva. Manomaya Kosha is Ichcha Shakti or the Karana Rupa. Pranamaya Kosha is the Kriya Shakti or the Karya Rupa, or in other words, the doer, the will, and or the instrument, and the final product. Why is it important to have this division? I'm not too sure, but we'll see what is written here. Yogyatvat evam etesham vibhagah iti varnayanti. And etat koshatrayam militam sukshma shariram iti uchyate. So this division has been made according to the respective functions. That is all it is being said here. Nothing more is explained here. But the next line is easier, which is this koshatrayam, the three sheets, militam, altogether, is called uchyate, sukshma shariram, subtle body. We'll see the English explanations here. Power of knowledge, vijnana, or intelligence has this power on account of its proximity to the Atma. Okay, very good.
Okay. Okay.
Willpower, will is a function of the mind. Kamaha, sankalpaha, vichikitsa. Okay, so because will is the function of the mind, therefore Ichcha Shakti. Desire, resolution, doubt, etc. All these are modifications of the mind. Okay, maybe that's how we can understand to some extent. The self or perceiver, in spite of the presence of the sense organs and the object, can perceive the object only when the mind is attached to it. Okay. So although the Vijnanamaya Kosha may have the knowledge, unless the mind or the Manomaya Kosha comes into play, Ichcha Shakti, the desire or the will, it won't perceive the object, which is the Pranamaya Kosha. Therefore, the mind is the instrument. The objects are always present before the perceiver, but it is the mind alone which cognizes them. As people say, my mind was elsewhere, I did not see. My mind was elsewhere, I did not hear. The vital sheath is the product, as the following Shruti passage speaks of the prana or the vital force as the product of speech and mind. They, the speech and mind became united. Speech is obviously karmendriya, and out of that union, prana was born. So this was not covered in the earlier text. This is helpful for us to understand how prana actually is understood to originate. Mind is actually from the antakarana, and the organs of action are speech, etc. From them is the prana originating, is being said here. Okay, so far okay.
This is easier. Sorry, the psychiatry subject is probably easier than understanding this.
Any questions?
No, I'm just going through them and trying to read multiple times, trying to remember. But as you said, the application and analysis would be there at some point of time.
Not here,
Or
because in this text, the job is not to understand what are
yeah,
they there for.
okay.
The job here is to say that this is what tends to happen in the cosmology, only for us to ignore. All this is irrelevant because we need to go back to unravel all this, the superimposition. Or in another ways, it's a good small introductory textbook to understand the vocabulary that we
Hmm.
often come
Glossary.
across.
Yeah.
We come across all this so many times. In fact, I found this very interesting from that point of view because
Hmm.
a lot of the times when we pick up a bigger book, we won't be able to complete. But this one at least gives us a roadmap of various the vocabulary, and then it
Yeah,
makes it easy to pick up a larger text later on.
absolutely. I mean, we have to come back to this, I think, in the next 4 or 5 years to even understand what we are reading today. I think.
Yeah, for instance, we are reading Bhagavad Gita simultaneously, and we have done Sankhya Karika, Sankhya Darshana. They all come into place at some point. Let's say, for instance, next you may want to read Upanishads or the Brahma Sutras, because the reference for this book is Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and the Brahma Sutras. So when we read those after reading this, we can possibly start making, we may start making better sense of them.
Yeah, yeah. I was
So
going to ask you, when did you, I mean, you said you already finished Sankhya Karika. So,
yeah, we have done it in Telugu. I'll
okay.
hopefully do it again in English. Yeah. So when we do it in English, then that will be helpful because a lot of
Maybe
it,
after this, we can think of Sankhya Karika in English.
yeah, yeah. Because a lot of it comes back in Bhagavad Gita also. Hmm.
But Bhagavad Gita, I felt when we are going through this and some of the explanations, they make it very simple for you to even understand that context. Here, this is more like a definitions, glossary, as you said, index. I think this is a very like like very concise
Heavy book.
information.
Hmm.
Very heavy. I mean, it looks very small, but it's a very, very, yeah,
But in
mind
Bhagavad
heavy.
Gita, we need to look at chapters 2, 13, 14.
Mm,
There will
mm,
be all this vocabulary there,
mm.
whether it's Sankhya or this, so therefore, yeah, it may help in that sense. Ultimately,
Yeah.
we all want to read Bhagavad Gita and understand it. Mind you, it requires a lot of rereading as well for us to
Yeah.
consolidate our understanding.
And not only that, one more thing which I just want to quickly end up is every time I read, I understand it in a slightly
Hmm.
different way and in a better way, I would say, from the last time I read it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that also happens. Okay, next, number 90. अत्र अपि अखिलसूक्ष्मशरीरम् एकबुद्धिविषयतया वनवत् जलाशयवत् वा समष्टिः अनेकबुद्धिविषयतया वृक्षवत् जलवत् वा व्यष्टिः अपि भवति. Atra, here, api, also, akhila sukshma shariram. Akhila sukshma shariram, akhila is obviously aggregate. Some sukshma shariram. So the aggregate, let us say, aggregate subtle body. Eka buddhi vishayataya. If it is viewed to be one, just as vanavat, just like a forest. Jalashayavat, a huge water body. Samashtihi. It can be seen as a samashti or aggregate. Just like how we have seen the Karana Sharira. The Karana Sharira had a samashti, Karana Sharira had a vyashti. Sukshma Sharira now is also being seen as a collective or the aggregate samashti and vyashti as well. So then Aneka Buddhi Vishayataya, from being seen as many, Vrukshavat, it's like trees, Jalavatva, small collections of water, Vyashtihi api bhavati. So the same subtle body can also be individual units. Okay.
Yeah.
Thankfully, because of this repetition, it makes it easy for us to consolidate some which we have learned earlier also. However, now this is now being given a new name. Just like how we had Ishvara and Pragnya, we will have names for these. Etat samashti upahitam chaitanyam sutratma hiranyagarbha pranaha cha iti uchyate सर्वत्र सर्वत्र अनुस्यूतत्वात् ज्ञान इच्छा क्रियाशक्तिमत् उपहितत्वात् च. So this samashti upahitam chaitanyam. Upahitam means association. Chaitanyam is the absolute consciousness. Absolute consciousness associated with the totality of the subtle body. Earlier we have seen totality of the Karana Sharira. That was called Ishvara there. You sent in Sohamvidya group, for instance,
Yeah.
Ishvara is the highest form
Manifestation
of the manifestation of the Brahman that we can know.
that we know. Yeah.
So Hiranyagarbha or Sutratma becomes lower than that.
Mm.
The highest form is Ishvara because that's the Karana Sharira. This is the lower form.
Okay.
Now this is the Hiranyagarbha. This is the womb from which everything seems to be taking birth. All the subtle bodies are taking birth. But this is also called Sutratma. Sutra being the thread connecting everything. Atma. It is Atma anyway, the Brahman. So this is also called the Sutratma because it is the thread. In Bhagavad Gita, we have Maya protamidam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matsthani sarvabhutani nachaham teshu avastitaha. In Bhagavad Gita, it comes where just like how a string has all the pearls in it, strung to it.
Mm.
Similarly, I am the string connecting all that has been created. So the
Yeah.
same Sutratma is being mentioned here. Sutratma, Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha here is a golden womb. So this is the womb, the subtle bodies. Also called Pranaha. Iti uchyate. Sarvatra anusyutatvat. Um, because it is, yeah, where the created space, it actually encompasses all the created space. Jnana ichha kriya shaktim ज्ञान इच्छा क्रिया शक्तिमत् उपहितत्वात्. And because it is also powered with the three koshas, the Jnana Shakti kosha, which is the Vijnanamaya kosha, the Ichcha Shakti Kosha, which is the Manomaya
Manomaya.
Kosha, and the Kriya Shakti Kosha, which is the Pranamaya Kosha. These are all part of the subtle body. So because of all that also, there is this manifestation coming through. So Sutratma, what is the explanation given here? That soul which pervades the universe as a thread runs through the garland. Prana, it is also called prana on account of its possessing power of activity. And as regards the conception of Hiranyagarbha, compare the following Shruti passages. Hiranyagarbha samavartatagre in Rigveda. First there came Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbham janayamasa purvam. He first produced Hiranyagarbha. Katham kathama eko deva iti pranaha. Which is that one deity prana? So these are the references
Yeah.
for the origin of the created
Hiranya.
universe. Okay. Next we look at Asya Esha Samashtihi Sthula Prapancha Apekshaya Sukshmatvat Sukshma Shariram Vijnanamayadikoshatrayam Jagratvasanamayattvat Swapnaha Ata Eva Sthula Prapancha Layasthanam Iti cha Uchyate. Asya of this, Esha Samashtihi, this aggregate subtle body. Sthula Prapancha Apekshaya. Now they're having to compare with the gross body, gross universe. Why? They're saying compared with the gross universe, this is subtler. There's no other way for them to explain what subtle means here, because the subtlemost would be more subtler than subtle body. Like Karana Sharira would be more subtle, but this is being given a subtle body name, Sukshma. But why is it being given this name? It is in comparison to what is going to come next, which is a lot more gross. So, sthula prapancha apekshaya sukshmatvat, compared to the gross manifestation that's going to come later on, this is subtler. Therefore, it is called sukshma shariram. No other
There's a
explanation.
there's a word here, universe, gross universe.
Hmm.
Universe is not to be considered as a, I mean, this is still representing gross body or grosser mechanism. Universe, what is universe to do with this?
Depends on how we use the word universe, obviously. Well, let's say the entire cosmos is not the same as universe. So the created space is the universe.
Yeah.
I guess uni means one. Verse is, I guess, one loka. Multiverse. When we say multiverse, there are multiples of those places or lokas, I guess. So I think best thing is prapancha is the best word being used here. Prapancha. So Parabrahma actually pervades everything beyond. So this prapancha is the created part.
Hmm.
Stula prapancha, if the word being used is universe, again, I'm not an expert in the English vocabulary which goes along with this to translate. So prapancha, the gross manifest world, let's call it world maybe. Prapancha is world, maybe easier rather than using the word universe.
Okay.
So the world, so the gross manifest world. What is the gross manifest world? The sky that we see, the trees, the earth, stars, planets, even the wind that is blowing on our face. All this is the gross manifestation and part of the gross world.
Mhm. Maybe we can read this meeting place, etc. Just reference to one more time. Just um, it says gross physical phenomenon seen in the waking state are
Yeah, that
experienced
will
in the
come.
dream
Yeah,
state.
we'll come to that also. So,
Okay.
Sthula Prapancha Apekshaya, compared to the gross manifest form of this world, it is subtle, therefore, that is therefore called subtle body. Now, we are talking about the aggregate, not the individual components. Vijnanamaya koshatrayam jagrat vasana mayatvat swapnaha. Um, and this, because it has the three Vijnanamaya koshatrayam, Vijnanamaya, Manomaya, and Pranamaya, there is the aspect of its wakefulness, it is said. So, as we read it here, the aggregate made up of the three sheets, such as Vijnanamaya kosha of Hiranyagarbha, is called subtle body, as it is finer than the gross universe. It is also called the dream state, but that is Swapna, which is Swapna. It's called the dream state as it consists of the impressions of the waking state. So Jagrat is the waking state. So because it has the impressions, Vasana, of the waking state, it is called Swapna, as opposed to Sushupti, which is the dreamless sleep, which was the Karana Sharira. Karana Sharira was given the name Sushupti. Sukshma Sharira is being given the name Swapna. अत एव स्थूल प्रपंच लयस्थानम इति च उच्यते. Everything, if you remember, Sushupti is the state into which entire manifest world gets absorbed.
Yes.
Everything from subtle body to gross body. In this one also, it is said the gross manifestation is absorbing or collapses into the subtle body. So, Sthula Prapancha Layasthanam. This is the place into which the gross manifestation is collapsing or merging. It is also called the dream state as it consists of the impressions of the waking state, and for that very reason, it is known as the merging place for the gross universe. Dream state, because it corresponds to our dream state, which is a state intermediate between the waking state and the state of dreamless sleep. And merging place, the gross physical phenomena seen in the waking state are experienced in the dream state as mere ideas. As the same thing also happens on a cosmic scale, the gross universe is transformed on the plane of Hiranyagarbha into subtle universe. It's just a comparison because next we'll anyway come into the individual units. At an
Mhm.
aggregate level, also we need to understand that the gross manifestation merges or transforms into or emerges into the subtle manifestation. एतद् व्यष्टि उपहितं चैतन्यं तेजसः भवति तेजोमयान् अंतःकरण उपहितत्वात्. Now we are being introduced to the individual subtle bodies. And the individual subtle body, the Chaitanya, the consciousness associated with the individual subtle body is being called Taijasa. Whereas the consciousness associated with the aggregate subtle body was called Hiranyagarbha.
Hmm.
In this Taijasa, what is happening? It is full of radiance, it is full of light, apparently, because it is associated with the Antahkarana. Consciousness is associated with each individual subtle body, and on account of it being associated with the effulgent inner organs, Antahkarana. Okay. Again, we will not worry too much there. We'll just understand that we have entered into the individual subtle bodies now. Asya api iyam vyashtihi sthula sharira apekshaya. Same description is being given again. In comparison to the body, gross individual body of Ayaskant and Srinivas, this subtle body, this is subtler. Therefore, it is called subtle body and for no other reason. Sukshmatvad iti hetoho, for that reason, eva, for that reason only. Sukshma shariram, it's been called Sukshma shariram. Just as we discussed, they are also saying the same thing. Only for this reason alone, we are calling it Sukshma shariram. Vijnanamayadi koshatrayam jagrat vasanamayatvat swapnaha. Same thing, because it has the three sheets, Vijnanamaya, Manomaya, Pranamaya, and there is this the vasanas of the wakeful state, the impressions of the wakeful state, we are calling it Swapna. It is a dream state of the sleep. Dream state of a sleep into which the gross experiences of the wakeful state are manifesting or are being seen, displayed. Therefore, it is the Swapna. And similarly, because it is the dream state where the gross manifest experiences are dissolving into it, it is Tula Sharira Layasthanam. It is the place into which the merger of the gross experience happens. Then Etau Sutratma Tejasau, these two, Tejasa and Sutratma being the aggregate consciousness of the aggregate subtle body, Taijasa being the consciousness of the individual subtle body, Tadani Manovrittibihi, they have the mental action, quite active mental action. Sukshma Vishayanubhavataha, the subtle information, the mental activity of these subtle bodies is able to grasp all the subtle information. Now, subtle information could basically mean a lot of, I don't know how to describe it. We'll see if it becomes any easier later on. Surely, gross experiences are me speaking and you listening.
Yeah.
Those are gross
Antakaranas,
experiences.
the
So, subtle
Antakaranas,
experiences should be much more subtler than that.
Antakaranas, they are subtler than Gyanendriya or Karmendriya. So,
You can say
anything to
so.
do.
Yes, you can say so. But I don't know if that is what they mean here, or if it
Okay,
is
okay.
generally speaking, they are, by the nature of being subtle bodies, with their mental activity, they are able to appreciate, perceive subtle information. Pravivakta Bhuk Tejasaha, the Sutratma and Tejasa at the time, through subtle functioning of the mind, experience the subtle objects. Witness such passages as Taijasa is the enjoyer of subtle objects. Let us see the explanation. The dream objects here have merely an appearance and have no reality. Okay, I can understand that.
Hmm.
They are called pratibhasika or illusory. A dream is not mere memory because it is perceived directly, which is also understandable. Nor is it sound sleep because we perceive in that state some objects. It's not a dreamless sleep state because we are perceiving something. So this is what I guess they mean by perceiving subtle things, subtle information or subtle objects. They are not gross as in a wakeful state. They are subtler than that but are still being perceived. Again, it is not a wakeful experience because there is no reality about the object's place or time seen in the dream. There are no real chariots in that state, no horse, no roads, but he himself creates chariots, roads, and horses, is what Brihadaranyaka is saying. He gave example here. This is not from Vedantasara. This
Yeah,
is the author, Swami Nikhilananda, who is
yeah.
giving us some helpful explanation.
In fact, Vedantasara also does reference to Upanishads, like in the same
Yeah.
the previous one, 94.
Yeah.
Mandukya
They give,
Upanishad
yeah. So
is
for
referenced.
instance, the Taijasa is the enjoyer of subtler object that is being referenced in Vedantasara.
Yeah.
But the additional information from
Yeah,
Brihadaranyaka Upanishad
yeah,
is not part of the Vedantasara.
yeah.
And then further explanation also, Tasmad Eshaha Pravivikta Aharatara Aharataraha Iva Eva Bhavati. So therefore, Taijasa takes finer food as it were than the corporeal self Vaishvanara. We'll come to the Vaishvanara later. So here we are referring to the terminology vocabulary around subtle body. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of stuff. We'll just finish with two more texts before we go to the gross body.
Yeah.
Atra api samashti vyashtyoh तदुपहित सूत्रात्मा तैजसयोः वनवृक्षवत् तदा वनवृक्षवत् वत् वत् तदवच्छिन्न आकाशवत् च जलाशय जलवत् तद्गत प्रतिबिम्बाकाशवत् च अभेदः. Atra api, here also, samashti vyashtyoho, among these two, samashti the aggregate, vyashti the individual units of the subtle body, tad upahita sutratma. Now again, a good way to for us to remember, understand the subtle body is the product of ajnana, ignorance. Then it has association with that limited part of the consciousness. You understand?
Okay, yeah,
So we'll go back to Karna Sharira, for instance, causal body, the very first one.
yeah.
Causal body was the Karna Sharira, that ignorance has led to the creation of that Karna Sharira, the causal body. But it is associated with some limited part of the consciousness. Consciousness is everywhere, but this limited part. Now, this ignorance is being called Karna Sharira. This Karna Sharira is not being called Ishvara. This is Ishvara.
Mm-hmm.
This limited part of the consciousness which has come into association with this Karna Sharira is being called Ishvara. So Ishvara is not the Karna Sharira, or the
Okay.
Karna Sharira is not the Ishvara. So this is the way it is
Yeah,
being
yeah. No, understandable.
described
Yeah,
here
yeah.
again. So that's why I think it's important. Similarly, causal body, the Karana Sharira, and Prajna, the individual unit. All right. Now we come to the subtle bodies. Subtle body is the Ajna related manifest Jada Padartha, and its association with this part of the consciousness, the limited consciousness. That is being called Hiranyagarbha.
Okay.
The individual unit of the subtle body and its association with the consciousness is being called Taijasa. Like
Okay.
your subtle body and Taijasa, my subtle body and Taijasa. They're
Okay.
working together. That is what is being given here again. That's why I thought Atrapi samashti vyashtyoho. So there's clearly kind of specified. Among these two, among the samashti subtle body, the aggregate subtle body, vyashti subtle body, the individual subtle body, tat upahita, that associated sutratma tejasayoho, sutratma or the hiranyagarbha and tejasa of these two. So of the two subtle bodies, of the two associated consciousness, vana vrikshavat, just like again the examples of the vriksha, the individual units and the aggregate
Or
forest. Avachinna akashavat. Avachinna is unlimited akasha, just like how it has the unlimited akasha. And also jalashaya jalavat. Now the vriksha, the individual vriksha is the subtle body of you and me. The entire forest is the hiranyagarbha, not hiranya, entire forest is the subtle body of that creation. And the space above it is hiranyagarbha. So jalashaya jalavat. Similarly, the reflections, pratibimba akashavat. So the reflections of the sky or the space in the individual water droplets and the entire water collection. Again, he's driving down the point that there is abheda, there is no difference.
different.
It is still the same consciousness. So only we're just giving names. We have given 4 names so far for the same consciousness, which is nameless, by the way. So the nameless, formless consciousness has been given 4 names so far. One was Ishvara, associated with the Karana Sharira, Prajna, associated with the Karana Sharira. Now Hiranyagarbha or Sutratma and the Taijasa.
Pages.
That's it. Evam Sukshma Sharira Utpattihi. This is how subtle body has been produced.
How simply he closed out.
For me, it is much more easier because I've already read about these things much before.
Ah,
Yeah. So
okay.
therefore, it makes it easier. And I have listened to a lady called Karra Suryakantam. She explains. You understand Telugu, right?
A little, not
Not
very
too
well.
much, okay? Hmm.
But you can tell me the name. I'll try.
Yeah, I'll share the YouTube
Okay.
videos. They are very good.
I was
Very
going
good.
to also ask you one more thing.
Hmm.
One more gentleman.
Hmm.
Have you followed Hiriana of Mysore?
Hiriana.
Hiriana. Huh.
No, I haven't heard.
He's. I'm reading a little bit about him. 18th century English writer. Is a school teacher, not much of formal education, but very high spiritual thoughts and writings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably just tell you because I've just gone through his biography and little bit of his writing, and I'm very impressed with how we had
Oh.
such great English writers.
So
It's
that's a
from Mysore,
Kannada name, Hiri Anna. Hmm.
Hirianna of Mysore.
Mm-hmm. How do you
Hirianna,
spell it?
like Professor Hiryanna.
Hiri Anna. Mm.
So he's also has a very good commentary on this Vedantasara.
Wow.
So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, when
You
I was
found
trying
it
to look,
on YouTube, Google, is it?
I found it. Actually, I found his name in the book, in the introduction, but I had known about him earlier, 2 months back for some other context I was looking,
Mm-hmm.
and there it was referred particularly in the
So
English writing.
is the book available in print?
Yes, yes, his books, his writings are available.
Okay, interesting. Somebody how he wrote it in English.
He has written in English here.
And somebody managed to kind of print it, even though he belonged to almost like 200 years ago.
Quite some time back. Maybe I'm not exactly sure of the time, but it's old. It's pre-independence, of course.
Okay, okay. Yeah, 1871 to 1950. Okay, so he lived until this century. Yeah, I mean,
Ah, okay.
not so long ago. Hmm.
Mhm.
Wow, okay, should get his book as well then in that case. Hmm.
That is one thing, and I
Wonderful.
was also going to ask you one more thing. So it seems the book which I have, I mean, it's everything page numbers is not matching. Mine one is saying as 8th reprint, October 2023. Is it the same one which you have?
October
It's
23 must be, no, mine is sixth print, 2021.
okay. So that's why maybe slight difference, some
So do you
slight
have
pages.
English transliteration as well?
Same book, same book, same book. I mean, I
No.
saw the front page.
You
Yeah,
have Devanagari and then translation,
yeah,
or you
yeah, yeah,
have
yeah.
English transliteration also?
Transliteration also. It's like all the individual points
Oh, it is
from.
all there. Oh, I thought because it's not there, I was taking the pains to type it up.
I was going to ask you, but I think yeah, maybe you're doing it for yourself. I thought
No, no,
no
no.
need actually.
Because my book only has the Devanagari and the explanation. That's it. It doesn't have the English transliteration.
No, no. This one also doesn't have the English translation. I mean, the word-to-word translation it doesn't have. I think none of these books have.
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
I no, I don't think I've seen
No,
that.
show me
This
again.
one,
Show me that.
this one. Okay, I'll show page number one. Maybe that will be just to give the context.
No, just randomly open one of the pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't have the transliteration. Okay.
No, it doesn't have the word-to-word the way you have done it.
No, no, no.
But sometimes I think that is also good to have that word-to-word for understanding Sanskrit. I think I have gained a lot from that, from
Hmm.
your PDF
Yeah, but I
about what.
stopped doing it that way because anyway, nobody was giving me feedback. And the main reason I thought I would do was for those who can't read the Devanagari script, just for them to read in the English transliteration. That's it.
Okay, okay.
Hmm. Okay.
I feel like coming out of a Christopher Nolan movie. So you have to go back and research on the movie more than what
Yes.
you
Yeah,
find it
yeah.
in.
Perfect. Okay. Shall we stop for today
Okay.
then?
Yes. Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः. Right, next weekend I may or may not be around because I'm traveling. So I'll inform in case we don't have a class.
Okay, sir. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you. Bye.